I think this chapter gave a lot to work with in terms of like kind of like gauging out what the mystery behind Shiki and Ziggy actually is. So this chapter I think got a pretty nice display of the Dark Stars. I like the wizard guy. I do really like that their names are all very they're all very basic. Like I never really thought too much into the names of the female ones. Like you know, Hermit, you know, Valkyrie. All of them have those kind of very basic names for what exactly their role really is. And then like we get these other guys, and then we get their names. It's just straight like wizard, clown, Brigadine, and killer. Like they're pretty straightforward, and I like their designs a lot. I've already mentioned that. Apparently, they're each based off of like a video game, and a lot of people are talking about how Wizard looks a lot like Sephiroth, which is kind of cool. I know Mishima just recently played Final Fantasy the remake, so he probably has you know, had Sephiroth on the brain, maybe. Well, just in recent times, so that would make a lot of sense. I still think the clown dude is my favorite. Definitely out of these four, the clown dude is my favorite out of all of them. He looks badass. He's potentially one of my favorite designs in the whole series so far. Like I really like Jin, I like Kimura, I like Shiki, but like I think this dude might be my favorite right now in terms of design. Yeah, this dude's really interesting. I hopefully sticks around for a while. Anyway, as it were, Ziggy is now like against them. He's back on. He's on Eden's one. Connor is the pilot. We have these Dark Stars now, and Ziggy has decided that he's going to kind of like create a new age for the machines and enslave all of like they say humanity and humans, but obviously there's other alien species like out in the series. We just don't know that many of them. We don't got really much lore for any of these aliens. We haven't even seen a lot of them. Like, what is it, the closest one? We have like Maria and Amira. But anyway, Connor, I do like seeing Connor in this. He has this very weird menacing tone to him when he's got that hat on. Legitimately, it's even though he looks a little silly, it's that kind of glare he's got with the shadow of his hat, and then the style of his hat, and I think the mustache just gives him kind of like this dark general kind of design to him, this aura. So I really like that. I think that's really cool in a design that really started out kind of like being this kind of almost silly design and silly character, and kind of just an all-around more you'd think, oh, maybe this is going to be their, you know, comic relief guy. But no, that's not the case. It was just, that's probably what he's like casually, and this is what he's like at work, which again, really cool. I like that a lot. But they're kind of just like having this trade of words between them, like, you know, why are you doing this, blah blah. And like the Dark Stars are all kind of looking at him as like, oh, these are our prototypes. This is what we kind of are born and evolving from, which is really cool. I like that a lot. And I think that my guess on each of them is solid. Like I'm pretty sure that Clown is gonna go I think Clown is gonna go Hermit. I kind of just have this kind of like weird computer hacking clown kind of like thing to him. Or he'll be with probably like Witch. And then Wizard obviously is gonna go with Witch. Not Witch. Sister. I think Clown would either go with Hermit or Sister. I think Brigadine is obviously going to go for Homura. Killer is kind of like the switch, because obviously Wizard and Witch is really obvious, and then it's just kind of that switch between, is it going to be against Hermit or is it going to be against Sister? So something to look forward to in terms of those fights. I think those are going to be really neat. Right now, legitimately, I just have my fingers crossed that this clown dude is going to be impressive. And if he's not somebody that lives for a long time, I'm really hoping he has a really cool power, and he gets to, you know, have a really good fight. Even if it's literally like he gets one fight and then it's over and we never see him again. He could even die this arc, as long as he gets a cool display. Because I like his very kind of like big fancy clothing theme to him that makes me kind of see him like, and the clown combination makes me think of almost like a royal entertainer. I just think that's really neat, and I guess it makes sense too, because he's a clown, you know. He'd be like the jester for the Demon King, you know. I think that would make a lot of sense, and I think that maybe that's why he's designed like that. I actually really like that. Then he could be, at that point, I think if he his theme kind of like further ties into the Demon King, because I get all the how they kind of are. You have like his big kind of tank guy of his assassin, you have his spellcaster, and you have his kind of like jester. There could be a lot of really interesting stuff that like Mishima could be doing with this, but I don't know. As long as he's cool, that's all I care about really in the end of things. But anyway, I don't want to ramble on about like theory and design on this guy and like how it ties to him. But fingers crossed, please be good. I have a lot of hope for this character. The other three are cool, but Clown is definitely my favorite. But Ziggy wants to attack them. He wants to destroy the he wants to go out and destroy like the Eden Zero. Obviously this is like a pretty rough situation. Ziggy is like, Shiki just saw his grandpa alive after who knows how long, like years and years, and then he's turned on him. And you know, this is, I think most people would think would be a really shocking kind of like put him in a rattled state situation. But when Ziggy shoots at him, like he's just shooting their cannons and just completely laying into Eden Zero. It's going right through the Eden Zero shield. These are just way too powerful for him. Like it's getting pretty aggressive. Like there was the question of whether or not like Ziggy was setting something up, like he was being like maybe kind of playful. But I personally think I figured out, right, at least with the knowledge right now, what the case is with him. But like they're just getting like the ship ran, they're shooting at him. There's like there's a really interesting part later in when Shiki just starts to Shiki just straight takes charge, and I thought that was really good when they're all kind of like trying to get him to figure out what to do. He's a little nervous, but I don't think it was more of like, you know, Ziggy has turned on him, like his grandpa's turned on him, kind of like nervous. I think it was like he needs to make a decision as a captain kind of situation, and I like that a lot, that kind of like presence on him. It's like you need to show your leadership. And there was a momentary kind of like worry, but then Shiki just takes charge. He gets stuff kind of like going, and it just now is a game of kind of like dodge and chase, and the Eden Zero just trying to like play defense against it. But they're just like sending out all these drones, and both ships send out like these drones. I like that each have their own design. I think that's really cool, and it's not just the drones are, you know, like some generic like mob. But yeah, that'll be cool if like each major ship is gonna have these own like tiny little unique drone designs. I like that a lot. But then Wizard is out there on one and just completely like by himself shoots down every single one of the Eden Zero drones, like completely just nopes them with his divine lightning. And very cool to just basic attack. I think that was a really cool way to introduce the character, like in this mystical way, as his name is Wizard, just to go with a very straightforward kind of like wizardy spell like lightning bolt, but this obviously having a bigger flair to it. And I think the bigger flair actually fits it as more because it's in space. I think that's not just lightning bolt, it's this divine lightning, this almost an idea heavenly lightning, which makes sense of why, if it's in outer space, in the mindset that it's, you know, lightning way high above in, you know, in quote unquote the heavens. I think that's really cool. But yeah, the Eden Zero is getting into some dangerous spots. Ziggy's getting ready to use the Starbringer cannon, which another thing that's really cool to note is originally Ziggy, like Shiki's name when Kirishima was designing Eden Zero, before he decided to reuse the revitalize, really is a better term, revitalize the Shiki name for the 4 seasons, because he's got all these characters, like his other main characters all have different seasonal names: Haru, Natsu, Aki, and Fuyu. Fuyu don't, I think it's Fuyuki or so, it's some Fuyu, because Fuyu's winter, and that's in a one shot. And I'm hoping that if we get the Eden or the Heroes 2, that we get to see those guys in there as well. But Shiki originally, when Hiroshima, like when he hadn't decided to call him Shiki, he was planning on calling him Ziggy in reference to Ziggy Stardust. But then, like when he decided to do Shiki, he put the name Ziggy on obviously, you know, the Demon King, Shiki's grandpa. And then now he's got the attack Starbringer. I think it's really interesting because it's Ziggy based off Ziggy Stardust. So you have the Starbringer. I think that's just really cool in name design. Just in reference of like also it being a really cool reference, but also it having a kind of like a space theme to it that fits the series. I think that's really cool. And I'm actually really hoping that that Hiroshima in Fairy Tail uses Starbringer as like a name for eventually, because like eventually Lucy's got to get her Celestial Spirit Queen dress, and if she could put on, that'd be a cool name for the attack, because then it it kind of fits the whole thing with Hiromishima's series is a name of something exists in a different universe, but it just does something slightly different. Obviously, like Ethereon, it's just one of those things. There's a couple different abilities like Crash and stuff. And Acid Rule, another one. I just think that'd be really cool to see kind of like one moved over into Fairy Tail from Eden Zero. But when things were kind of getting down, like they were looking like they're in trouble, Rebecca's getting like a bit desperate to get her ether gear going, and then here comes in aid. You have the Skull Fairy. It's Elsie Crimson, and I really like that someone pointed out not too long ago that her logo, like her emblem for the Skull Fairy, it's the Fairy Tail Guild symbol turned counterclockwise, like 90 degrees. I like that a lot, and it's always really funny to me when people like compare, like, oh, he's reusing the design. He shows like shows Elsie and then Urza. It's like they think that it's not obvious, and Hiroshima doesn't do it on purpose, because obviously the whole thing with Elsie and Justice, it's Jalal and Urza's situation kind of swapped, which I think is really cool and working out. Whereas like now we find out a little bit more about her, and she is one of the Erasion Seis Galactica, which is really neat. And like we see stuff from Ziggy talk about how she was the dread pirate who conquered the 7 cosmic seas, which, so I'm guessing that means that she must be the most powerful member of the Erasion Seis Galactica. She's got to be, if she's that highly regarded, if she's apparently conquered all these seas. Maybe she's got one of the only ships in the entire series that can handle every single cosmos, or the transverse to every cosmos, because as far as we know, maybe every single cosmos has some big barrier between it, kind of like Dragon Falls, which still we need to get there already. I know that's the next part, but like it's really crazy to think about like how long ago we found out about it and we still haven't got to it. And I do like that a lot. And it's funny to think about when you have series and you don't think about it too much, of like goals way pushed out, like a long scale goal, like, oh, eventually, we're going to get to this part where you get promoted in ranked, or in this case that we're finally going to get to Dragon Falls to lead the Sakura Cosmos. So going to be really interesting to see where that takes us. But I want to find out what's going on with Ziggy, because now Elsie wants to talk to him about what's going on, and Ziggy's saying like how like they can't really do this in the present days, like that pirate, like the pirates is trouble, we can't escape or unscathed, not in the present day. So obviously he's like, he thinks probably they can beat her, but they're gonna take a lot of damage. But when he says at our present stage, that means, think about it, they're machines. That means they're gonna upgrade. That means they're gonna be throughout the series probably getting bigger, more detailed, like way more mechanical parts. Could you imagine like Ziggy, like maybe like his final form is like this giant like steampunk kind of like space ether clock, like I just imagine a bunch of gears, like skeletal kind of like steampunk, lots of gears kind of design, you know what I mean? I don't know why I keep saying lots of gears when that's kind of like part of the steampunk. Anyway, that I think it's going to be very intriguing, like eventually when we see these robots slowly just making themselves better with adjustments and like I said, upgrades. That's going to be really neat. But after that, like we have Elsie saying that she wants to talk to Ziggy about, or talk to Shiki about Ziggy. And so I think this is my theory right now. I think that Ziggy was programmed and created to be the Demon King. I mentioned this theory a little bit earlier, a couple chapters ago, or a couple reviews ago, I think I did it in a video, but I want to go over it again. Is that some like scientist, maybe there was a guy who's like, I want to be like a big bad evil ruler guy, but he was limited to mortality. He was limited to a lifetime. So he's like, I know what it'll do is I'll make the like some sort of like evil terrifying space ruler, and then sends the Demon King out. The Demon King goes out in the space, earns the title the Demon King, earns the infamy and fear. And then at some point along the way, maybe his programming gets messed up and he develops that softer side that obviously we saw with Shiki when Shiki was a kid. And he knows that like eventually the program is going to want to fix the error that made him not evil, kind of like this, like just imagine it, like he's this terrifying space conquering machine, like he's created for it. Something happens along the way, he gets kind of like a much more human, happy kind of like feel to him, not like a programmed war machine. And then when he fears that, oh, eventually this is going to go away and I'm going to go back to being the bad guy, maybe that's why he had like Shiki be brought somewhere to be taken care of until he was old enough, in the hope that somebody would show up, bring him off of Granville, and then, you know, start his journey. Maybe he wanted to get somebody eventually to defeat him, which would be really cool. I think that'd be really badass to kind of have almost like this tale of Ziggy in two parts, of like the part of him that became sentient and like human, and then the version of him that's just this programmed destroyer, kind of like conquering space dude. That'd be really neat. I think that'd be like a really nice tragic story. So hyped to figure that out. I really want to know what scale Ziggy is going to be in the series. Like, I'm wondering if he's going to be the big villain, like if he's going to be the end. And I think that there's a good chance of that, because even though Fairy Tail ended, Zeref was like the biggest story-wise bad guy. He was the big end in reality of the majority of the story. When you really, if you could really like think a lot about like Fairy Tail, for those who, you know, are caught up with it, up to Zeref is like one part of the story, and then it's Acnologia, and then forward in a way that goes into 100 Years Quest, because all those events in 100 Years Quest only happen now because Acnologia is gone and the dragons can kind of come out, which is really cool. So when you think about Ziggy, you compare him to on Heroes, where Hiroshima put Zeref, Lucia, and Ziggy all in one spot. I think he was obviously, I think he's very clearly implying that Ziggy is going to be like the main villain of this series. I don't think he's just going to be one arc villain. I think he'll be the main villain, and then we'll have probably like Erasion Saints Galactica throughout the series. So look forward to that. I think that's going to be a really, I think it's going to be a fun thing to see through, especially when we get to like what it's going to be like outside of the Sakura Cosmos, because I'd like to imagine the Sakura Cosmos is like the most tame, and this is where people are more normal and kind of like civilized, and the further we go, we'll get more criminal, like vicious guys, because the series, it does, even though it's Elsie primarily, there is like a level of like, it's Voyager, it's like boat voyaging, like obviously, like it's like this idea of like, instead of planets, because the planets in Eden Zero are treated kind of like islands, is just imagine this giant space, or kind of like ocean adventure, kind of like a, in a sort of idea of One Piece, like in space, and the idea of all the islands, and just there's so much to see and so much to travel. Obviously not in the totality of it, but in a little bit of both the idea of great exploration and adventure theme. And now we have that kind of in space, and I do like that a lot. I think it looks really cool. I like the kind of like wind sails. I wonder if those are like more like wind sails, or do the wind sails have solar panels? I don't know. Either way, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes after this, and I want to know if there's going to be like more space pirates, if there's going to be more than just Elsie, and maybe like we're going to get more criminal bad guys that are more towards a kind of like on the open seas, like dangerous pirate kind of like series. That'd be really neat. Then I just imagine like it's like Space Pirates of the Caribbean. Either way, it's going to be really fun. Like, jokes aside, I do really like Eden Zero, and I'm happy that where this is going. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Thumbs up the video. Really appreciate it if you thumbs up the video, from the like button, subscribe button, comment below. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't. Other than that, I appreciate everybody who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.